our topic today has to do with the kind of balance that takes place in parish life between, or outreach and inreach, if you will. Or in Lent, we're thinking about personal spiritual disciplines, but there's also a need to reach out. And even in the Old Testament, there's that famous passage from Isaiah that talks about the real fast that God requires is to seek justice, to break the chains, to take the yoke off people who are burdened. So have you some thoughts about helping our parishes at least talk and debate about that balance between our inner personal devotion and outreach and making a difference in the community?
It's tricky, isn't it? Because to get to the balance of anything is a challenging act. How do I balance, say, my work life with my recreational life, or my obligations to some organisation I'm involved in and my family? And so we're talking here about that balance between what may be quite internal to me, my relationship with God, finding time to be quiet with God, maybe focusing on a very personal Lenten discipline around fasting as a way of deepening my relationship with God, in this outward looking, maybe more active approach, seeking to do things in the community, working for justice, working to meet maybe basic needs because we've got a food pantry in the parish. And how do we balance? Or my personal approach would be to say, how can we be both and? How can I be attentive, if you like, to my soul and say to your needs as a person in the community?
Sure.
How can I be attentive to developing, say, great worship on Sundays?
Yes.
I might be the vicar, I might be the musician, I might be one of the greeters at the door, but we all play that role, and often we have meetings and training, and we don't feel like we've got much time left over to then reach out into the community where there can be issues of injustice, that passage from Isaiah about fasting versus not engaging with injustice, through to, of course, most simply, how do we share the good news of Jesus Christ so that people who are not yet in church want to be with people of God in church because they've also met Jesus Christ. And the tricky thing, I think, about both and is that if we push it really hard from the pulpit, or in this case from this video, we can add a burden of guilt, like, you're a good Christian, Mark, but you'd be even better if you worked even harder.
Right.
And that doesn't help, because you're already a hard-working Christian, paying attention to many
and
things in your life. And you are, I know that. And the point is, of course, this is the case for all our faithful people in the diocese.
Yes.
But of course, when we're busy and working hard for the Lord, it nevertheless may be that we're putting more effort into one thing than perhaps we need to, and less effort into another. So there may be some reflection would be good. And Lent can be that great time for saying,
perfect. Yep.
am I the individual, and are we the parish congregation in that kind of balance? We're getting the both end correct, where, if you like, paying as much attention to the spiritual discipline of fasting as we are to the discipline of working for justice in the community.
Yes. And there's an interesting sort of convergence, or should I say complementarity in a way, because unless we attend to the spiritual life, there's neither the motivation nor the interest nor the energy to sort of reach out to our communities in a variety of ways. So in a sense, if you want a priority, in my mind at least, it's the conversion, the regeneration that God brings to our hearts and souls that then enables us to do all of those good things. Would you see it that same way, or?
Well, I do, because historically there have been movements in the life of the church that have led to some amazing outward-looking, community-transforming engagements.
Yes.
And sometimes those movements have become a political movement that then becomes a political party. But 100 years later, you look at the political party and say, where are its spiritual roots today?
Sure, I get that.
And all people can talk about is, well, we did start way back as a church movement or a chapel movement back in the late 19th century or whatever. And so the disconnect has grown. And totally, as Christians, if you like, our first obligation is our relationship with God.
Yes.
But if we're in a good relationship with God, and particularly if we're hearing from God through scripture reading, through being in church for preaching, being in a Bible study group and so forth, God will speak to us
Yes.
and challenge us
Yes.
to not be totally focused on our own, if you like, inner life,
Yes.
but to think about what we can do outwardly.
Mm.
I think there's one more thing to say. Sometimes we are in a personal situation where life's thrown a number of things at us. We're quite bruised and we're quite broken, and it's not so much a matter of self-centeredness that we might be pretty focused on the state of our own soul, but actually a needed time of healing, recuperation, restoration. And it's okay to be in that mode for a while, and in God's good time to once again become more active, outwardly facing and so forth. But God doesn't want to lay heavy burdens on us. So if we're feeling the heaviness of, if you like, the Lenten fast, the Isaiah message, I'd encourage people to keep praying, talking, reflecting. What is the way in which I can serve God that's life-giving for other people around me, but actually also life-giving for myself?
Okay, well, that's a great place to stop, and it's got a Lenten theme, which is really great. And so thank you for helping us to reflect on that balance between the inner life and our community parish outreach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.